whether the audio and video is clear. Good morning, Sakshi. So, evolution of Indian public administration is what we are continuing. And once again, this is my Telegram channel, people. Any doubts or queries that you have, answers you want to send, please utilize this platform right here. Now, with regard to Kautilyan administration, we saw largely what is its structure yesterday. In the last class, that is Friday. Yesterday, we ran into some internet issues, technical issues, etc. That is why we couldn't conduct our class on time. So today we are going to see a little bit more analytical aspects of Kautilyan administration. That will be the core focus of today's lecture. Revenue administration. State exists because of revenue. Thus, Kosh, one of the 7 prakritis, that is one of the 7 major organs, was very, very important. According to Kautilya, it was more important than the army. Vyaya Sarira. Body of expenditure. Revenue is in the form of tax, impost, or profit. 3 means of livelihood: agriculture, cattle tending, and trade. Strictly controlled by state through Samahartra, which is basically nothing but almost similar to modern day finance minister, almost, but had shades of the home ministry as well. And his assistants, records of agricultural holdings, records of crops grown, grasslands belonged to state. Grasslands belong to state means that is a place where cattle used to come for herding. So the idea of private ownership was there even during Kautilyan era. That is the most important thing here. Plus, there were certain assets which were meant for public purpose also. Say, for example, grasslands, meant for almost all the farmers to use to herd their cattle. This was the idea at that point of time. And they basically believed that money is very, very important. True. Even today, the idea is what? Even today, it's a modern idea even today that to actually run a functioning bureaucracy, you need what? A thriving economy. Without a thriving economy or without economic growth, actually, you won't be able to pay salaries to your employees. Simple. गवर्नमेंट में जितने लोग काम कर रहे हैं, अगर आपके पास पैसा नहीं है उनको तनख्वाह देने के लिए, then there is no point in it. Getting the idea here. So that is why he considered it to be most important. So everything was recorded. Proper records were kept. Kahan, kab, kitna, kaisa, all that recordical things were kept. So we can almost see a structure is there to the whole administration. There is an organization. Clear? Good morning, Lipika. Good morning, Yashbi. Go Adhyaksha, Pani Adhyaksha. Go Adhyaksha, superintendent of cattle, kept the record of all animals. Pani Adhyaksha, superintendent of trade. Trade routes were under state control. Lavan Adhyaksha, responsible for the manufacture, supply, and fixing of prices of salt. Agar Adhyaksha, highest officer in charge of mining. Loha Adhyaksha, base metal manufacturer in charge. Suvarna Adhyaksha, superintendent of gold. Khanya Adhyaksha, in charge of mines. Functionaries in ancient India were either in the nature of corporations or officials presiding over public boards. State controlled economic life to realize maximum possible revenue. Clear. So overall, what do we see? Now see, even though we can see clearly there is division of work, division of responsibility, यानी कि काम को भी डिवाइड किया, जिम्मेदारी को भी डिवाइड किया, कुछ जगहों में हमें क्या देखने के लिए मिलेगा? ड्यूअल कंट्रोल. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर अध्यक्ष हाईएस्ट ऑफिसर इन चार्ज ऑफ माइनिंग, हाईएस्ट ऑफिसर, ठीक है, खान्य अध्यक्ष इन चार्ज ऑफ माइंस, तो कहीं ना कुछ ओवरलैप थे उस जमाने में. वाई दिस ओवरलैप? वाई इज इट दैट ऑलमोस्ट टू सिमिलर टाइप ऑफ जॉब्स आर हैविंग दिस ओवरलैप? रीजन इज सिंपल, एक दूसरे के ऊपर नजर रखने के लिए. दिस इज अ सिंपल सिस्टम ऑफ स्पाइंग दैट वाज kept. When you keep two closely related jobs very close together, तो क्या हो जाएगा? If I have a problem with, let us say, Alam here. Good morning, Alam. I have a problem with Alam. I will go and complain about him to the king. Alam has a problem with me. Alam goes and complains. So both of us will be always mutually suspicious. Getting the point here? There will be always mutual suspicion. ये क्या कर रहा है? ये क्या कर रहा है? All that. And king आराम से बैठता था. Because this mutual suspicion ensured that they will not conspire. मैं और आलम हमें कभी भी एक साथ आकर किंग के खिलाफ we will not conspire. This is how they ensured that there is no unity between the officials. Getting the point here? Spying on each other. You cannot call it exactly check and balance. It is more to do with what is it? Okay, check and balance of a primitive era. Getting the point here? Because when we say checks and balances, there is some sense of accountability there. That is what when we clearly mean by checks and balances. कि आप क्या कर रहे हो, कैसे काम कर रहे हो, and all that means there is a sense of accountability. Here, more than accountability, it is the basic thing is that the king is ensuring कि कभी भी there is no unity, no jhagat, there is no unity between the officials. They shouldn't conspire against the king. And they shouldn't become too powerful. Clear, people? Moving on. Personnel administration. Personnel as important as the organization. Recruitment. How was it done? Qualification for each post was mentioned. Prince should have knowledge in science. Prajna and Vakya Shakti necessary for state services. Testus check integrity. Dharmopada, Arthopada, Bhayopada and Kamopada. Minister should be conversant with the teachings of the Shastra. Minister job was only possible through recommendation. तो उस जमाने के हिसाब से everything was in order, because for each post the qualification was different. The prince that is the Yuvaraja should have knowledge in science. And everybody, like I told you, just like today's interview, you should have intelligence, you should have power of speech, was considered very important. Test to check integrity, different tests, which we saw earlier itself, whether you will conspire against the king for money, whether you will conspire against the king for material wealth, etc., etc. Dharmopada, Arthopada, Bhayopada, Kamopada. Ministers again should be conversant with the Shastras, the Dharma Shastras and the Suktas. It was considered very, very important because even the king should have it. King should be knowledgeable about it. Ministers also should be knowledgeable. Job of the minister was only possible through recommendation. More than merit, recommendation matters then. Clear? Again, training. Training of prince has been mentioned extensively. Training of personnel ignored. This could be because the qualification tests itself was so tough that it may have been considered as unnecessary. So यहाँ पर we can clearly see this is a clear deviation from the modern bureaucratic norms. Modern bureaucracy, abhi, by the time you people enter the service, which is in a couple of years once you enter, by the time you complete 15 years in your service, mid-career review with mandatory training will become like a norm. करना ही पड़ेगा. 15 साल बाद आपका पूरा रिव्यू हो जाएगा, आपका पूरा करियर का, आप कैसे काम करते थे, आप किस टाइप के ऑफिसर है, आर देयर एनी corruption allegations against you, how many vigilance cases are there against you, and especially with regard to male officers, how many sexual harassment cases are there against you. All of this will be taken into consideration. Based on that, they will decide कि रखना है या टाटा बाय बाय कहना है. That is a point here. Next one, mandatory training also will be made it compulsory, because unfortunately what happens is once the Labasna training or the National Police Academy training is over, generally a sense of lethargy seeps into the officers. मतलब लेजी बन जाते हैं, अरे हो गया, बस यूपीएससी क्लियर किया, अब कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बस हमारा नौकरी पक्की. That sort of a feeling, where there is no incentive at all whatsoever to stay updated, to stay fit. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. All of that is going to change. Getting the point here? Moving further. 1/4 of state revenue to be used for payment of salaries. Salaries were to be paid liberally to prevent discontent and ensure efficiency. If treasury does not have sufficient cash, then payment has to be made partly in cash and partly in kind. Land may be given, but giving whole village should be avoided. This entire thing is about the payment of salaries and how it is important. यानी कि अगर आप सही सैलरी नहीं दोगे तो डिसकंटेंट रहेगा, अनसैटिस्फाइड, खुश नहीं होंगे आपके एम्प्लॉइज. दैट इज व्हाट कौटिल्य इज टेलिंग. Very true. Even in the modern context, if you see, now they have decided to set up the 8th pay commission. By the time now the commission has been decided to set up, they will do a study, they will make a recommendation, then the government has to adopt the recommendation, cabinet has to pass it, the salaries have to get revised. Minimum 5 years, maximum it can go up to 10 years also. By the time they will actually come out with the whole pay commission, okay, itna hum karenge, utna karenge, it will be some peanut increase that will happen. Peanut increase, why I'm saying is salary may feel okay, suddenly salary became 50,000, 60,000. But by then, there is a very good chance that $1 may hit 100 rupees. It will become too costly. When आज के तारीख में 1 crore and all, 2 crore and all has got no value anymore. Crore and all has got no value today, because 1 crore is almost like telling 10 lakhs some 10 or 20 years ago. It is as good as that. Getting the point here. So the idea, bottom line is what Kautilya also understood long ago: pay salaries properly. It's important, because even in government circle, if you see, corruption is there. IAS, IPS officers getting arrested, IPS officers getting suspended. We keep reading about it in the news. But what we don't read about is what? News with regard to the peons, the clerks. They are equally corrupt. I know an acquaintance who told me that if I get a peon's job in government, that is, he's an engineer, he's working with a corporate, but he told me if he gets a peon's job in state service or central service, he will resign his job. Why? What is the salary for those things? Maximum 30 to 35,000. That is the salary. 30 से 35,000 तक. If you are even in a small town also, that is not sufficient. You pay the rent, you pay for your food, you will be hardly left with anything. Then why are they happy to take up a peon's job? Why is that PhD holders, MBA holders are coming and giving peon's job and clerical job? Because they know 30 to 35,000 is the salary. Another 50,000 they will easily make from bribes alone. And it is just a fallacy to assume that, from the government side, to think that clerk and peons will be able to handle their entire expenses with 30 to 35,000. Impossible. You are single, you will be able to do it. You are married, you are having a child is going to school, the school fees, the tuition fees, this, that, etc. with this salary, nothing you will be able to do. That is one of the major reasons why we are having corruption at the lowest level, the highest actually. The ghotalas and all, whatever we talk about, 100 crore ki, 200 crore ki, that is okay. But lower level के officers के घोटाला कुल मिलाकर अगर आपने add up किया, that will run into like literally 10,000 or 20,000 crores. Getting the point here? This is the idea. Payment was according to the job. Pension scheme was available. There were no definite rules about promotion. Again, very different from bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, we know one thing for sure. This many years के बाद you will become deputy collector. उसके बाद आप बनेंगे collector. There is a clear benchmark is kept for it. Promotion was based on loyalty and the ones who will increase the state revenue. जो loyal है, जो state का revenue increase कर रहा है, that was the basis. So somewhere we can see element of performance was there. Performance mattered. Not in today's bureaucracy. Today's bureaucracy, performance, more than performance, what is given? Criteria is seniority. Transfer, precaution and remedy for misappropriation of funds. That Zamana itself, Kautalya understood that you need to keep the officers transferred. Why? एक ही जगह पर when a government officer remains for too long, they end up having a control over that whole affairs there. Anybody. This is the reason why, this is where the job of the clerk or the peon, etc., they will always be having more clout than a collector, than an IPS officer, anybody. That is, ग्रुप सी ग्रुप डी सर्विसेज जो है ना, जैसे कि कांस्टेबल हो गया पुलिस स्टेशन में, कांस्टेबल हो या सब इंस्पेक्टर हो, these people will be having more clout in any district compared to the senior officers. Q. It is like how it has been said in that movie of Ayushman Khurrana, I think article 15 or something, where they what is it, where one of the guy will say SP 3 साल बाद जाएगा, SP 2-3 साल बाद यहां से निकलेगा, तू मेरे अंदर ही काम करना पड़ेगा. Getting the point here? So this is the fundamental issue. Because IPS transfers are easily regulated by the state, etc. But when it comes to their own state service officials, state government doesn't transfer them as frequently as how IPS or IAS officers are transferred. Dheere dheere, madhyam only it will happen. What will be the advantage for these officials, the clerks, the peons, the constables, the SI? They will know the inside and out. Which politician is whom? Politician ka kaun sa bhatija ya nephew is a criminal, they'll have all the information. They will literally know kya karna hai, kya nahi. Getting the point here, that is what happens ultimately. The clout what these people have, these lower rank officers have, combined with their knowledge of the law, plus bribe seeking mentality, put together, they become a formidable force. So strong that sometimes even IPS officers, IAS officers also will not have any control over them. Getting the point? यानी उनके आशीर्वाद के बगैर आप कुछ काम नहीं कर सकते. Getting the point here? Transfer, precaution and remedy for misappropriation of funds, tenure and removal, will of the king. यानी कि किंग फैसला लेगा किसको कब कहां से रिमूव करना है, all of that. Clear? Public administration and Arthashastra. Again, king is the sole source of authority, principle of unity of command. Ruler is not an autocrat. There is element of democracy. King should function according to the satisfaction of his subjects. Now let us see public administrative principles किस हद तक अर्थशास्त्र में हमें देखने के लिए मिलेंगे. There is no solution for it. King is the sole source of authority. True. because every order flows from the top. Everything flows from the top. So there is a complete unity of command. However, ruler cannot do his manmani and all. He's not an autocrat where he will decide everything by himself. There was an element of democracy. Why? In the happiness of his subjects lies the king's happiness. King should function according to the satisfaction of his subjects. True. Was there division of labor and division of work? Definitely yes. You had different adhyakshas were there. Principle of coordination. Principal coordinator was also the king. Matlab, any issue between any department, who used to ensure that there is no problem there? King again. Job was clearly classified. There was a pay structure. Tests were there according to the nature of the job. Dharmopada, Arthopada, Bhayopada, Kamopada. There was a clear hierarchy. That means if you see, proper structure was there. Or we can easily say that without structure, nothing will work. Nothing will work. You talk about a fused society, you talk about a prismatic society, or you talk about a diffracted society. You need what? Proper structure, proper unity of command, division of work, division of labor, clear communication, hierarchy, structure. All of that is required. Clear, people? Moving on. Planning and budgeting. Aya Sarira, different sources of income, revenue and taxes from agriculture, trade and other goods, rigid control over economic planning, emphasis of modern planning is development. In Arthashastra, it was about realization of revenue and controlling the economic activities. Matlab, Arthashastra mein, the main focus was on what? Main focus was how to increase the revenue, how to control the economic activities. Control करने के चक्कर थे वहां पर. आप ये करोगे, आप ये नहीं करोगे, आप ये कर सकते हैं, आप ये नहीं कर सकते हैं, like that. Modern world में economic planning or budgeting, when we say, it is largely focused on one thing, that is development. Economic development, social development, both put together. We are talking about even infrastructural investment, social sector investment, all of that. That is modern sense. Us zamane mein, it is not development. It is more revenue, more revenue. Because more revenue is the criteria. Revenue है तो सब कुछ है. Revenue नहीं है तो कुछ भी नहीं है. This was the thought then. And promotion was also highly dependent on loyalty and how much revenue you are generating for the king. The more revenue you generate was a way of actually telling, yes, मैं बहुत ज्यादा वफादार हूं राजा का. Why? मैंने सबसे ज्यादा revenue लाया है उनके लिए. That sort of a system. Clear? Decentralization. Janapada was divided into 4 divisions. Divisions were further divided into villages. Each division was under a Sthanika. Gopas reported to the Sthanika. Gopas were in charge of 5 or 10 villages. Sthanika reported to the Samahartr. Pradastha subscribed. Gramika was the village headman. Will of the village was expressed through Gram Vruddhas. Janapada means what? Janapada means the entire territory. Obviously, Janapada will come under the king. Janapada divided into divisions. Divisions, where each division is under a Sthanika. Divisions further divided into villages. 5 or 10 villages were under what you call a Gopa. Village headed by a village headman. Gramika. Gram Vruddhas. So this is the rough structure of it. Janapada, or largely the territory, yes, king is the head. But it is not that the king will interact with the Sthanika. Territory was divided into divisions and each division was under a Sthanika. Each division consisted of about 10 to 15 villages. And those 10 to 5 to 10 villages were under one Gopa. Each village was headed by one Gramika, that is a village headman. And the will of the village was communicated through a body called the Gram Vruddhas. Gram Vruddhas simply means the body of elders. A practice, unfortunately, which continues to even today. That is, even though when we say 73rd Amendment, 74th Amendment, Panchayat is there, elections will be conducted, etc. Unfortunately, in many parts of the country, we don't have the proper elected Panchayat. The Panchayat, what we have is these elders sitting together and they will decide ke kya hoga. This is our village rule. This is the new rule that we are making. And sometimes these rules, like I've told earlier, can be as bizarre as girls should not be allowed to go to college. Girls shouldn't wear jeans. Girls shouldn't be carrying mobile phones. Modern era, 75 years of independence. Very recently we celebrated Republic Day. But something as simple as even having a mobile phone is not allowed in certain villages of our country. Not for the men, for the women. And this is especially more in the northern parts of India. Northern, eastern parts, this is very, this is like huge. The gap between the technological access what women have and men have, the gap is huge. Getting the picture here. Then Pradasthas were there, obviously, to suppress what? Law and order. Law and order issues. So if you actually see, they also reported to the Samahartha. Sthanika reported to the Samahartha. This was the network. As you can clearly see, it is not so easy to know or understand also. Getting the point here. Because ultimately all authority came from where? The king itself. At the same time, divisions were there. Clear, people? See, you will find a lot of similarities. That is there. Many areas, you will find a few commonalities between Kautilyan thought as well as the classical thinkers, or one of the classical thinkers, that is Weber. You will find it. But ultimately, what is the conclusion? Even though you find a few traits here and there, the whole thing was basically what? It was a fused society. It was largely a fused society with multiple people doing multiple roles. Because you can see Samahartha was having both, was entrusted with finance and law and order. and ultimately reporting to the king, who had every role. Already taken in the earlier class, the finance minister, just Friday's class. They acted as guardians and helped settle boundary disputes. Power was centered around the Samahartha top-down approach rather than bottom-up. Welfare state was an idea ahead of its times. King's primary duty was Yogakshema of his subjects. New village enjoyed concessions in the initial stages. Parallel analogy with GST. That means everything, if you look over here, it was all top-down. Entire thing was top down. Nobody cared about the feedback from bottom up, obviously, and everything you were supposed to do without irritating the king. Then welfare state was an idea ahead of its times, because that zamana, because forget that zamana, Kautilyan era, after that we are going to study about Mughals. Nowhere in the Mughal history they talk about welfare of the people. Forget whatever you watched in Jodha Akbar. Even Jodha Akbar also, now many historians have told it is not what they portray Akbar as, very tall, nice, good looking Hrithik Roshan types. That is not your Akbar. That is not the real Akbar. The real Akbar had many wives, and he had even went on to kill his own, military officers, some of his own military officers, just because he found their wife to be beautiful. So the point here, what I want to stress is, even in the Mughal era, you are not going to see any welfare here. Welfare as an idea also, Kautilya was the one to give. Welfare, if you see, it was an idea which was, again, after years, after Mughal, after British, at the time of independence, in our constitution, again we bring back the idea of welfare. 1940s. This is from 4th century BC, even before Christ was born. Getting the point here. That is where this Yoga Kshema becomes important. Now, new villages, whenever they are formed, they were basically given, okay, you don't have to pay tax for a couple of years. This is almost similar to what? Your GST, compensation, etc. That is obvious in the initial years when GST was implemented. Some breathing space was given to the states. Okay, 5 saal tak, we will give you whatever loss of revenue you are having, we will give you a certain percentage of compensation. This is again similar to the fact that, okay, you're coming up with a startup, you don't have to pay taxes for these many years. Getting the picture here. So many at points, if you see, उस जमाने के हिसाब से, if you see, it is much ahead. Nobody after that has thought about it. No administration. Getting the point here. Now, taking it further forward, Arthashastra and Ashoka. Ashoka, again known for good governance, public gardens, hospitals, wells, roads, educational institutions, even for women and monasteries. He wanted official reports to be delivered to him at any point of time. Kautilya's text influenced Ashoka. Kautilya's contribution was overlooked for Western thinkers. Matlab, Ashokan administration also was highly influenced by Kautilya. So whatever you see under Ashokan administration, whatever initiatives he took, where he told that even if he's in his private quarters, that is, even if it is with his wife or one of the many wives, if he is, still you can go and disturb him in matters regarding to public administration. Kautilya, sometimes many people borderline they insult him by telling that he is the Machiavelli of East. Machiavelli is a 18th century or 14th or 15th century thinker from Europe. But the idea here is Kautilya was from a different era. When Machiavelli was not even born, much centuries before that, Kautilya gave his ideas. So rather than calling him Machiavelli of East, Machiavelli should be called as Kautilya of the West. Getting the point here? So again, because whoever does it first, more than whoever does it first, whoever does it in a language that can be understood by the world, they will be appreciated. That is why Machiavelli is getting celebrated, or Woodrow Wilson, etc., got celebrated. By the time people got to know about Kautilya, his Arthashastra, the teachings in it, already names have been taken up. Father of public administration, Woodrow Wilson. Okay, Machiavelli, very important political science thinker, etc. Getting the point here. Taking it further forward. So therefore, what is Arthashastra? It's not a treatise on statecraft alone. It deals with subjects outside governance. Analysis of prevailing social customs, rights of women, care of the aged and helpless, marriage and divorce, diplomacy, passport, war and peace, army, navy, economic activities like agriculture, spinning and weaving, artisan and taxation. That means it is not just about statecraft or administration. It is much beyond that. Way of life, क्या करना है, कैसे जीना है. Social matters में भी Arthashastra had a clear idea क्या करना है क्या नहीं. Again, everything from a practical viewpoint. They did not build any theory. Make it very clear. ऐसा theory follow करोगे तो आपको ऐसा मिल जाएगा ना. ऐसे situation में ये करो. Divorce हो गया तो ये करो. Marry करना है तो ये करना है. Clear set of practical guidelines. How a state should be ruled. Focused on political science rather than political philosophy. Political philosophy was the focus areas of Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. Kautilya talks about a highly materialistic world, and in that sense, he was very practical. Aristotle le lo, Plato le lo, all these people, when you take Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, etc., some of their ideas are too utopian. I don't know whether you have read this book. There is a book called Plato's Republic. Don't read it, because after a point you will go mad. That is the reason. Plato's Republic, what he is telling is the ultimate idea of a state. What he tells is people who are really hadde kadde, fit, etc., they should be made soldiers. Physical strength dekar. And there should be no concept of father, mother, son, daughter. Because these hadde kadde soldiers should be allowed to procreate more and more. Matlab, they should be allowed to have physical relationship with every woman so that more strong soldiers will be created. No personal bondage. Everybody should be a property of the state. This is one of his ideas. I told you, the moment you hear it itself, you'll be feeling, ye kya vahiyat soch hai ye. That is what. His idealist state, what Plato gave, was too utopian. Because he basically told some one simple thing. Because if I am tied to my family, I won't be able to serve the state. I will serve my family only. If I don't have to serve my family, that whole concept of father, mother, parents, etc., those should not be there. I should be only what? Belonging to the state. This is the idea what Plato gave. It is a philosophy. Kautilya gave what? Pure science. He did not say that king should be ascetic, king should not touch anything, king should not get polluted by the materialistic word. Artha, dharma, kama, moksha, nothing he should be worried about. No. Kautilya was very clear. Bhai, tu enjoy le, tu maze le. लेकिन योग क्षेमा भी कर ले. तू जो करना है तू कर ले एक तरफ, लेकिन योग क्षेमा के ऊपर भी नजर रख लो. So he never wanted the king to live like a saint or a monk, सन्यासी बनकर पूरा का पूरा ये छोड़ दिया वो छोड़ दिया ना. He is like तू एंजॉय कर, मजे ले, लेकिन ध्यान दे. Clear? आगे. Some methods or practices against enemies and traitors do sound violent and horrible, but this has to be understood in terms of the time period in question. Kautilya scores over Machiavellian ideology because of his emphasis on welfare of subjects. Machiavellian ideology, bahut zyada, I mean, there is a huge discussion on it, but let us not take it up because he's more to do with political science thinker है वो. लेकिन I'll just give it to you in a very brief outline. Machiavellian ideology about a state. Machiavelli, what was his idea of a state? State should be like a centaur. Now, what is a centaur? Centaur is actually a mythical creature. Mythical means वो real नहीं है. Writer की भावना या कल्पना है. And what is that? Centaur is basically is like body, half is of a horse and the other half is of a man. As you can clearly see, I'm very talented in drawing. So do excuse me. This is what a centaur almost looks like. Half the body is of a man, the other half, half is of a horse, the other half is of a man. So what the Machiavellian ideology says is, जहां पर थोड़ा हमदर्दी दिखाना है, that time you behave like a man. When you have to be a little kind, when you have to be a little supportive of your some people, etc., behave like a man. जहां पर तबाह करना है, destroy करना है, घोड़े के तरह बन जाए. Because obviously, horse, it is known for its speed only. Largely, people will know horse is known for its speed. But if you actually get a kick from the horse, you can die. One kick from the horse is enough to kill a person or break your rib cage. Any part of your body, very easily. They are that strong creatures. Legs are very, very strong. So this is what he has said, a mix of both. But there again, that welfare concept was not there. Yoga Kshema. That was not there. Tabah karna hai, you have to suppress something, use maximum force. That is what is the focus of Machiavellian ideologies. Force या ताकत is the main focus area. Kautilya mein Yogakshema is the main focus. Clear? Kautilya has thought of all possible scenarios in administration and suggested remedies for the same. For this very reason, he was ahead of his times in terms of practical administration. We already saw how to remove an unworthy son, how to conspire against his king, how to deal with spies, like many things in detail he has given. क्योंकि वो जमाना ऐसा था, कब कहाँ दुश्मन बन जाएगा या what is it, दुश्मन के साथ कौन what is it, रिश्ता बना देगा, no idea there was. So it was always because of that era again, just like Taylor, just like Weber, etc., he was also a product of his times. Clear, people? Kautilya and Weber. Very quickly, Kautilya set in India, Weber set in Germany. 4th century BC, Kautilya, Weber 19th century AD. Kautilya focused on traditional authority. Very obviously, क्योंकि राजा का बेटा बनेगा युवराजा, युवराजा बन जाएगा राजा. It will continue like that. Elements of legal rational authority. No attempt in theory building based on environmental settings. Definitely. उस जमाने के हिसाब से Weber came out with what? A pakka proper theory, which is your ideal bureaucracy. Empirical, normative, prescriptive. Why empirical? Because you can clearly observe it. आप देख सकते हैं. Normative, ये करेंगे, ये नहीं करेंगे. What was the norm that time? Norms were based on Shastras. And prescriptive. अगर son is not worthy, eliminate. वो कैसे करना है? Clearly he has given the description. The prescription for it. This was descriptive. Order, rules, impersonal order, hierarchy, obedience. ये सब कुछ आपको करना है. Describing what an ideal bureaucrat is. Basis of the model is control. सबके ऊपर control. Economic activity हो, law and order हो, or the any form of life you talk about, everything was about control under the king. Basis of the model is legal, rational authority. Authority that is defined by law. Professionalism based on external fields. External fields. External fields means what? Based on reward and punishment. अंदर से आपके खुद अंदर से कुछ होकर आप काम नहीं कर रहा है. आप काम इसलिए कर रहा है ताकि राजा को लगे हाँ आप बड़े वफादार है. राजा को लगे हाँ आप बढ़िया तरीके से काम कर रहे हैं. राजा शुड नॉट गेट एंग्री विथ यू, otherwise you will get danda, punishment. External fields were the main focus. Professionalism based on internal sanctions. So today if you see, professionalism is largely ensured through internal sanctions, that is promotion, transfer. These are the two things. These are the two things. It is not that you are worried about your transfer or worried about your promotion. ऐसा नहीं है. You do the job. And somewhere अगर ये गलत हो गया तो ये मुसीबत हो जाए. Getting the point? You're not trying to impress anybody. That is, modern bureaucracy doesn't require you to impress someone. Not actually required. But yes, internal sanctions are there. Some sense of punishment and reward is there. Modern bureaucracy में reward से ज़्यादा punishment is more. Because आज के तारीख पर if you see, you have Rule 56J being used and the very old transfers also being used. In very rare case, you even have suspension. In extremely rare case, you have what? Dismissal. Clear, people? Monarchical rule, keen on efficiency and rationality. Hierarchy, defined competence, selection by merit, promotion by seniority come merit, compensation, training and discipline. Weber wanted separation of officials from means of administration. Similarly, Kautilya stressed on controls and had a spy network to keep surveillance over officials. Means, these points what you see here, these are the common to both. Common to both when I say both for Weber and Kautilya. Because both, Weber also gave his ideas during King's rule in Germany, 19th century. 19th century Germany was still in King's rule, by the way. Kautilya also during King's rule. Both were keen on efficiency and rationality. Some sense should be there, काम करने में. Hierarchy, competence, selection by merit, dharmopada, arthopada, promotion by seniority come merit. Again, I told you, more in Kautilyan Arthashastra, what we see is seniority se zyada, merit is what matters. Loyalty and performance. There was salary, training was there, discipline was there. Some sense of training was there. So some common elements are there. Weber wanted separation of officials from means of administration. That means they should not usurp their office. Whatever job is given to you, you should not use it for your own personal needs. Kautilya also said the same thing. That is why he said there should be transfers so that there is no accumulation of wealth. There should be correct compensation of salary to be paid so that there is no discontent among the employees. So some similarities, some differences. Clear? Arthashastra, its relevance. Arthashastra wants the ruler to maintain order, ensure discipline, promote justice, a conducive climate to serve people, strengthen ethics, accountability and integrity, control corruption, facilitate an integrated development of socio-economic system, promote decentralized governance, encourage austerity, judicious use of coercive power, plan development of rural and urban areas, follow Raj Dharma, attend to the problems of women, children and aged, offer protection during calamities. Again, a nutshell of whatever we have been discussing so far. Maintaining order, ensure discipline, promoting justice. Again, properly as how the Shastras want to again ensure what? Bottom line, Yoga Kshema. Clear? Kautilya emphasized on ethics in governance. Kautilyan king is a constant learner. Art and science of combating corruption, supervising the work of government functionaries, monitoring the progress of development work, tightening revenue administration, honing intelligence skills. Honing means to badana, because there was an extensive network of spies used in Kautilyan era. Internally भी, externally भी. इंटरनली किस चीज के ऊपर? टू कीप अ टैब ऑन ईच गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल, क्या कर रहा है, किसके साथ काम कर रहा है, एंड ऑल दैट. एक्सटर्नली टू कीप अ ट्रैक ऑन द enemies. So we know the example, I think a couple of months ago we would have seen that news actually. A DRDO scientist, some 27, 28-year-old fellow, he was caught in honey trapping. So first of all, whenever you are working with DRDO or any critical public sector unit, you're not supposed to be maintaining a social media profile. You're not at all supposed to be posting your pictures, etc. online. Getting the point here? Because see, now even though I'm not a famous celebrity or anything, even though I know it for a fact that very recently when I started becoming a little more active in Instagram once again, I started getting one or two messages from some random people. One look at the profile photo, you should be able to understand that, yeah, this is a trap, or this is the settings for a trap. Getting the point here? But the fact is that young individual, because he would have felt that he has conquered the world, okay, DRDO mein hai, let me announce it to the world, etc. Finally, what ended up happening was that a Pakistani female managed to trap him in honey trapping, and then finally he ended up sharing some very important secrets with with that female. Now, 27-year-old unmarried guy doing it, we can still understand. Chalo, Javani, that this young age, young khoon and all that. 45, 48-year-old uncles are falling for this crap. That is the worst part. So, Central Secretariat ho, या फिर DRDO में हो, कहीं पर भी हो, many engineers and scientists have fallen for this. As a result of which, government has been repeatedly issuing orders after orders and memorandum after memorandum that don't maintain a social media profile. Don't maintain it at all. Once you enter into public service, it is better not to maintain it, because these people will communicate with you only through your social media profile. Or not maintaining a social media profile, nobody has ever lost anything. But by maintaining it, it has always created trouble. Getting the point here? And who keeps a tab of these officers actually? You have Intelligence Bureau for that. To keep externally, to keep a tab, you have research and analysis wing for that. Today we have two separate agencies to look into matters of internal intelligence and external intelligence. Kautilya did it 4th century BC itself. Strengthening law and order machinery, understanding the art of diplomacy, keeping foreign policy aligned with national interest. Very simple it was. Kautilyan Arthashastra only focused on what? Not on your allies, not on what other people will think. What is beneficial for us, we will do that. Even if you see today's modern day, India's foreign policy, thankfully, is very, very practical. Very, very practical, because India today is following a policy of I, me, myself first. Thankfully. It is no more based on any so-called Gandhian ideology, Nehruvian ideology, nothing. I'm not belittling those ideologies, but let me tell you, Gandhian ideology will only work when your enemy also understands it and respects you for that. Getting the picture here? Now, Gandhi basically told if somebody slaps you, you show your other cheek. The idea is that the other person will feel bad. Oh my God, see, he's showing the other cheek. I shouldn't have slapped him. That feeling should be generated, correct? But after one slap you got, you showed the other cheek, that also he slapped, then he slaps few more, then that is where that ideology fails. Your ideology to work out, the most important thing is that the other person also should respect it and should be ready to give you that space for it. It is not happening means you cannot exercise it. Clear? Taking it further forward. Any doubts so far? Any doubts, any questions? Fine. Ethics in public services has been the central concern of Kautilya's Arthashastra. Critically examine the statement, 10 marks 2014. As usual, little about Kautilya. Kautilya, 4th century BC. Practical aspects of governance and other general matters. Introduction. Small introduction is enough. It's only for 10 marks. Body, I have always told you, critically examine the statement means that statement should be the main focus area there. So how has he focused on ethics when it comes to Arthashastra? He has focused on it. Why? To ensure that the officers are ethical. He prescribed 4 tests for officers, correct? Dharmopada, Arthopada, Biopada, Kamopada. Then he kept transfers, correct, to ensure that there is no, power control by the officials. Then proper payment of salary so that they are not discontent. Then yoga kshema, welfare of the people. All these are ethical only. Correct? There is no doubt about it. However, his idea was not just focused on, it was not the only central concern there. Because he talks about how to get rid of unworthy son, conspire against king, this is also this sounds almost unethical. And if you actually see, Kosh was the real central concern there. Controlling the economic activity and how to generate more wealth, that was more focus area there. Not that ethics was the central concern. It was part of the concern. That's it. And again, if you see, Varna system was being followed, which in modern sense of the word, if you see, it is not at all ethical. Based on the birth of a person, the job was being assigned to, that is not at all ethical. Supporting it, opposing it. Finally, conclusion is what? Arthashastra for all, whatever matter you call it, finally, for all purposes that you can see, it was basically practical administration catering to the needs of 4th century BC. End of the answer. Getting the point here. This is the way to write. As I keep telling you, always there is a core area. That core area won't change. Again and again, many people have been asking this. That is why I'm only repeating it. That is, only read Mohit Bhattacharya's New Horizons of Public Administration. Just read it. I'm not even asking you to study it. Read it. If you liked something, just underline it. Keep reading it. No need of Prasad and Prasad, no need of Avasti Maheshwari, nothing. Because whatever is important from those books, I've already taken it and given it to you as notes. There is no point in going through it. There are people who will tell you, no, Prasad and Prasad, अगर आप नहीं पढ़ा तो यार क्या पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन फिर मैंने पढ़ भी लिया है, मैंने वहां से नोट्स उठाकर आपको दे दिया है. There is no point in going through it again and again. Getting the point here. I read it and I broke it up and I gave it to you already. आप भी वही करने वाले हैं. आप भी पढ़ने के बाद उसे ब्रेक करके ही पढ़ेंगे. Not that 5, some 10 pages, because the font size also of Prasad and Prasad is very, very small. And some 5 to 6 pages minimum is there for every thinker. That means 5 to 6 sheets. That means 12 pages we are talking about. 12 पेज आप थोड़े बैठकर पढ़ने वाले हैं. Because maximum marks that you're going to be asked for UPSC is again 20 marker. 20 marker on a thinker, even if you get, you only have to write for 4 pages. That too linking paper 1 and paper 2. तो उतना कंटेंट की जरूरत नहीं है. मैक्स टू मैक्स 2 या 3 पेज के अंदर आपके थिंकर खत्म होना चाहिए. I know I have given more than that. Clear? So just stick with one book. Paper 2, no book at all. I'm being very honest here. There is no book. There is, what is it? Aurora and Goyal is there. But that again, not required. Because if you look at the question paper also, it's highly based on what is there in current affairs. That is the reason why now we have started the whole current affairs series also. So just follow that. Follow that. Go through the notes. Clear, people? Any doubts here? Now, this is a very interesting question. Because if you actually see in contemporary times, यानी कि आज के जमाने में Kautilya's Arthashastra is relevant more in the field of international relations than in economics. Analyze the statement. So statement को analyze करने के लिए बोल रहा है. And that to contemporary times, आज के जमाने में. How will you write this answer? You have to link current affairs with it. Because in contemporary times, so first thing first, what we'll write is in the body. What Arthashastra has to say about on IR? Maintain allies, correct? Not to lose them. Then don't interfere in their internal affairs. है ना? Then don't allow your enemy to grow. This is what Arthashastra has told. Correct, Yashvi? Agree with that? आज के तारीख में भी don't you think this is very, very true? Because if you literally see our all-time weather friend, Russia, whatever we are doing today, if you actually see, we maintain a very close relationship with Russia. No matter what Western sanctions are there, US sanctions are there, we always adopt a pro-Russia stance because that is beneficial for India. Then Don't interfere in their internal affairs. We are not bothered about the so-called democratic rights of the Russian people or the Russian society or what is happening in Russia. Russians are also not bothered about what is happening in India. As long as Indian support is there for Russia or Russian support is there for India, we are not at all bothered. Then don't allow your enemy to grow. Directly, we are not doing anything to basically affect Pakistan. Directly, we are not going and bombing them or training terrorists here and then going and sending them to Pakistan. That and all we are not doing. But we are doing everything possible to ensure that we have the necessary strength to destroy Pakistan. Best example, very recently now, USA has promised that they will deliver F-35s to India. That's a fifth generation aircraft, by the way. And who was affected by it? Pakistan immediately gave a press conference. It will affect the region's peace. I'm warning you. Pakistan warning us. Seriously. Getting the point here. That means, yes, whatever Arthashastra has talked about international relation, practical aspects of it, India is following it today. There is no doubt about it. We are definitely following a policy of India first. That was again Arthashastra's policy also. Whatever he talked, Kautilya talked about Raja, ऐसे करो, अपना allies को maintain करो, ये करो, वो करो. It was all for whom? King. King को कुछ नहीं होना चाहिए. King का राज्य, the Janapada should be safe. That was the idea. Same thing we are following. Now, coming to what? Arthashastra on economic affairs. Economic affairs, what does he say? Proper salary. Correct? Then Kosh is very important. Correct? To reduce the corruption. Again, okay, salary is there, Kosh is there, corruption is there. Then maintaining proper records of all the land, everything. Again, whole focus was what? Economic control, then welfare. Now, this if you see now, salary, yes, in today's Zamana we have 8th pay commission. Kosh, it is very, very important because even the current budget also we have basically decided to bring down the fiscal deficit, generate more wealth. Corruption to bring it down. Definitely, yes, we are making things online. Plus, we are using Rule 56J to remove the corrupt officials from the service. Everything making it recordical. Land, if you see, land ownership, today it is being linked with Aadhaar. We are making everything digital. Economic control was the focus. This is where we differ. Because in today's sense, the focus is on economic development. Welfare, definitely yes. But we have taken the welfare's meaning to the next level through various schemes like National Food Security Mission, Swachh Bharat, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, freebies, etc. So, which is more relevant or which is more irrelevant? Actually, both are relevant. In fact, what is the bottom line or the conclusion is, we will see Kautilyan administration's aspects even in the modern era. Many aspects we will find even in the modern era, not just isolated to international relation, yeah, economic affair. You will find it everywhere. HB, that and all we cannot take up for discussion now because again that is IR. It will go off track. So Arthashastra elements we will find it in various aspects of administration, not just international relation and economic affairs. It just goes on to show how a 4th century practical aspect of administration or a practical work by Kautilya is still relevant. That is the takeaway. You will find Kautilya's elements, bits and pieces in administration. You will find it in, in mining. You will find it in marriage. You will find it in divorce. You will find it everywhere. Some elements you are going to find it everywhere. That is the beauty of Arthashastra. That is how you are going to conclude it now. The beauty of Arthashastra is that you will find elements of it in different aspects of administration and even maybe in walks of life. You will find it. That is its beauty. But because of that, we cannot say one is more important than the other or only one aspect was being focused. No. Every aspect got focused. But the fact of the matter is, again, just as much as Kautilya's work was a period of his times, was a product of his times, today when we stand and see things, we may feel, oh, he gave more importance to international relation. Because IR, we can see that it's almost like everything, point to point, today also we can see it is relevant. Economics, you may not find it that much. Ethics, you may not find it that much. Getting the point? Why? Because आज के एरा है, आज के एरा में सबसे what is it मैचिंग कौन सा है? इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन. So आज के हिसाब से इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन, maybe after another 100 years it will be something else. Getting the point here. Bottom line is what? It's a very practical treatise on administration ever to be written. Clear? Any doubts here, people? Any doubts? This is what I've been telling you from day one. Why I have been always telling you to write the PYQs and send this. Observe this. In 2014, the focus was on ethics. Okay. 2016, the focus was on international relations, economic affairs. 2023, Kautilya's Arthashastra is a theoretical work on the state and statecraft comment. State और statecraft के ऊपर का comment है. Earlier what they asked on ethics के ऊपर पूछा गया. International relations, economic affairs. And now in 2023 they are asking, it is a theoretical work. First of all, in the entire Kautilyan Arthashastra, the main focus is what? It is not a theory, it is not a theory, it is practical administration. So first itself we are going to say what? It's more of a practical administration. Why? Because it focused on ethics, it focused on IR, focused on economic affairs. Towards the conclusion, what you will write? That there are certain aspects to it which we can take and make a theory. Like the first part of your answer, it's a comment question. First part of your answer, you will write no, it is not a theoretical work because he talked about ethics, talked about IR, talked about economic affairs. Second part, you can write yes, to some extent. Why? Because there was a structure. B, there was division of work. There was division of responsibility. There was a hierarchy. There was discipline. There were tests, which is relevant even today. Conclusion: Kautilya did not build any theory as such. Whatever theory, whatever he wrote was based on observations of administration. And these observations were a product of its times, but some of it are relevant even today. End of your answer. मतलब अगर आप ध्यान से देखोगे तो पहले दो क्वेश्चन का एक दूसरा वर्जन पूछा गया है यहां पर. That's it. If you had already prepared these two questions in 2014 and 2016, you can write half of the answer in 2023. Another half you have to basically write why it is not practical. Sorry, why it is not a theory. Why it is a practical administration. Sorry. The other half you have to write, yes, to some extent it is theoretical. Why? Because of this. That's it. Kaam khatam. So always keep it in mind. I'm telling you again and again, it is not about reading more books, because there are countless thinkers in public administration. Countless textbooks are there. Don't go by it. Only go by for the PYQ and see what is the core idea of every thinker or every topic. उस core के साथ ही आपको खेलना है. Clear, people? I will leave this part only this much. This you can try writing it and sending it to me. Okay? First off, like I told you, no, it is not a theoretical work because it focused on practical aspects of ethics, international relation, economic affairs. To some extent, we can say it was a theory also. Why? Because it had proper structure, division of work, division of responsibility, hierarchy, discipline, tests, dharmapada, arthopada, and all of that. Then give a final conclusion. All right, people. Any doubts so far? All right, people. Mughal administration. Okay, this we will start after a small break. Let's get back at 1 p.m. Okay, take a break now. All right, people. They imported foreign elements into administrative system. They came from Central Asia. There they had their own system of administration. Now, the own system of administration, what you talk about that they had, is again more or less based on the teachings of Quran or Islam basically. So Quran again, it's a book, it's not just a religious text again. It also talks about how to lead your life. It also talks about how the king should be or how the ruler should be, etc. That is also explained. That is, there is a thing called as, or a topic called as political Islam. How things should be run, how it should be done, etc. That is mentioned there. So more or less similar to that only they carried out their administration. This was modified once they came to India according to Indian culture and traditions. That is the point here. That is, as they came into India, there they made a lot of changes to the way they carried out their administration. Now, generally, people would like to paint a secular picture and all that. See, secularism, please understand. Secularism as a word simply means state either stays away from politics, state stays away from religion completely, or state does not support only a particular religion or nor opposes a particular religion. Either it supports everything or it supports nothing. This is the meaning. So Indian secularism, when we say, the positive secularism, that is India supports, that is Indian government will generally support all the religion, all the cultures. Western secularism, when we say, there is a clear segregation between religion and politics. That's a negative way of looking at secularism. There is nothing to do with politics and religion. Here, it supports all religion. But when we talk about the Mughal administration, it was largely supportive of the Islam religion. There is no two ways about it. One must understand that, number one. Number two, the second aspect of it is again, is it that they only kept, hired Muslims or only kept Muslims in their troops, in their administration? Absolutely not. They had Hindu commanders, they had Hindu soldiers, they had everybody. That is where we say that they made adaptations. They adapted to the changes here, to the environment here. The cultural filtering lens as an idea, if you see, it started off with Woodrow Wilson, then years later, after 1950, we have comparative public administration, then we have systems theory, all that. But practically, Mughals did it years ago. Again, when I started with the class, I told you about Akbar, etc. Now, Jodha, Akbar, etc. When we talk about at that point, at that zaman, it is not love, oh, I love my wife, nothing of that sort. It was all a matter of convenience. I will not, you want, okay, you don't attack my country. That time, I will ask, okay, why shouldn't I attack your country? What will you give me in return if I don't attack? I have one daughter. Why don't you marry her? Okay, if you're giving me a daughter, I'm not going to attack you. As simple as that. It has nothing to do with love. It has nothing to do with emotional bonding. Nothing. It was very simple. What will you give me in return? Is it, what is it? Land or is it your woman? You're giving me one of it. I'm not going to attack you. As simple as that. So for this, they made alliances. For this, they made alliances even with a Hindu king or with a Hindu family or with a Muslim family, whatever it was. So the priority was to hold on to the power, to ensure that your borders are protected, to ensure that you have allies to come in your aid when it is required. These marriage alliances itself, if you see, this is not something which you saw it in Arthashastra. Mughal administration was very, very clear. Okay, what should we do? Because again, that whole region, proximity to Delhi, whichever regions were there, they were under different kings means. You wanted these kings or these kingdoms to be like a buffer for you before anybody comes and attacks Delhi. So what was the best thing to do? Oh, okay. Let us ensure that the nearby kingdoms are all our friends. How to make them your friends? Either you send your daughter there or you get their daughter here. Getting the picture. Perso-Arabic system in Indian setting, Mughal administration was a military system. Again, this is something which they brought from the Central Asia. Every official was enrolled in the army. And it means ultimately doesn't matter what you're doing. Ultimately, all of them belong to the army. All of them. His status and pay was determined according to the mansab accorded to him, the rank given to that person. Based on that, it decided what is his position, what is the salary. Mansab also determined the number of horsemen he commanded. So based on this number being assigned, this mansab being assigned, salary was there, rank was there, plus how much horsemen, the cavalry that you're supposed to maintain. Cavalry simply means these are soldiers on horse, carrying talwar, yeah, bow and arrow, whatever it was. Clear? Taking it further forward. They were also paid by the bakshish or the military paymaster. That is one paymaster, one person to make the payment. Centralized despotism. Why despotism? Manmani basically. The king enjoyed absolute power and his word was the law. He is not your Kautilyan king. No Yogakshema and all. It is power is might. Aurangzeb also, when we talk about Aurangzeb, again, they don't show all of these. The atrocities committed by the Mughals, unfortunately or fortunately, were not covered by even by our NCERT textbooks. Forget the atrocities that they committed on other communities. What Aurangzeb did to his own family, that is, he murdered his own brothers. The whole statement that kingship knows no kinship. You can roughly say this is what the whole Mughal history is about. But this was taken to its epic level by Mr. Aurangzeb. Why? Murdered his own brothers. Elder, younger, those and all he didn't see. He only saw what? These three are there which will stop me from becoming the king. Oh, then let me eliminate them. He eliminated everyone. Then he felt, okay, maybe the father is also going to be a danger for me. Then what did he do? Threw his father in jail. Only reason that stopped him from murdering his own father was it was his father. Otherwise, he would have killed him also. Getting the point here. So it is not that, so it is not how some of them says they wanted to promote Islamic rule. They wanted to do this rule, that rule. Because it's no rule in Islam also tells that go and murder your own father, go and murder your own brother. It was just pure selfishness. Only I should have the power, only I should enjoy, only I, me and my law. I am the king now, I will do whatever I want. Poochne wala kaun hai? This was the attitude. General attitude, this was the thing. So obviously, no Yogakshema here. There was a strong blend of religion and politics because like I told you, most of their, what they took as reference was Quran. That is the only reason. King ruled according to Islamic traditions. He had to obey the ulemas. Ulemas means these people are the religious scholars. King socialized largely with Muslims. With non-Muslims, some kings followed a policy of least interference. However, there were exceptions to this, like Akbar. That is, generally, they didn't understand it. That is the first and foremost thing. They didn't understand Hinduism much because obviously they come from a different culture. So what they largely did was that, okay, let them be. Largely. Some of them, like Akbar, etc., followed a policy of what? Interacting with them, trying to understand it, all of that. Akbar withdrew jizya. Jizya was the pilgrimage or the religious pilgrimage tax. So when Hindus believed in pilgrimage, so if you had to go for a pilgrimage means you had to pay a tax to the Mughal Empire. Now that tax used to be their main source of income. One of their main source. Because obviously back then also Hindus were obviously larger in number. So that point of time, again, more people used to go for such pilgrimages. So they had to pay the tax. It was one of the main source of revenue for the Mughal administration. Aurangzeb issued firmans donating land to Brahmins and yogis. It is there. This is clearly mentioned. Taking it further forward, Mughal government was a paper government. Paper government means what? Doesn't mean that it was a weak government. No, paper government means everything was recorded. Means written down. Why? Large territory. There was slow means of transport and communication. No WhatsApp, no phone, nothing. So everything had to be written down. No political initiative from people. People also were like, okay, Mughals are ruling us now. Okay, chalo, theek hai. Multiplication of official correspondence. Everything written down from this person to the next person. Again, write it down. So everything was like, all forms of communication were what? Writing it down. Obviously led to growth of records. And that is how we get to know about their lifestyle. Combination of police state and revenue collection state. There was no interest in social progress or economic welfare. Nowhere you will find a mention of this. Because like I told you, it was all what? See, suddenly you become a king one day. You realize that now you are the king. What will you do? Are you going to worry about the people or this $1 million chance, whatever you have got? You will do whatever you like. It was a second category as far as the Mughals were concerned. So any form of revolt, discontent, straight away one thing, kill. That's the only thing. Kill them straight away. Education, health and promotion of art were left to private players. Only Akbar was benevolent and paternalistic. Benevolent and paternalistic when we say what? Okay, some extent he was a little kind, little more considerate, etc. Don't think therefore that Akbar was, therefore somebody was like he's brilliant and he was a great guy. No. Actually, I think in the entire Mughal clan, Akbar's one brother was there. I forgot his name. This had come in the Hindu very long time ago when Jodha Akbar got released. He was the only Mughal person there in that zamana who had a single wife. He was the only one who was married to a single person. Otherwise, if you look at the entire Mughal clan, if you see, they had many wives. Many. There was no limit to it because like I told you, the simple thing to do, and it was again, like I told you, pure political selfish reasons. Nothing else. It has nothing to do with, okay, I will establish my Islamic rule here, that here, this here. Maybe some of them could have done that. Not denying it either. But you must understand here, this is largely like पूछने वाला कोई नहीं है. I am having so much of power. I am the Mughal emperor now. I will do what I like. Simple. That is why we say it is centralized despotism. State was an entrepreneur with an elaborate system of corporations. State maintained karkhanas like workshops which produced commodities. Administration of justice and maintenance of peace was left to local administration. तुम खुद संभाल ले, मुझे बस रेवेन्यू टैक्सेस चाहिए और सब लोग चुपचाप रहना चाहिए, कोई आवाज या शोर नहीं. This was the state. Policing in rural areas were done by local chowkidars maintained by villagers. Faujdar, who was the agent of the government, could not handle the large area that was under him alone. So there was a Faujdar under the government, but the area was too big. He alone cannot go everywhere on his horse ride to control the law and order. So finally, what did villagers what did they started doing? They basically started appointing chowkidars. Administration was decentralized into provincial and local administration. Now, when we say decentralized, don't think that, wow, they allowed self-government in that era. There was no self-government and all. Only in few matters where the administration felt, oh my God, these things and all, I am not going to bother. Apunko bas revenue chahiye. Those where money was required, that Mughal will come and collect. Rest of the welfare, let the private players handle it. Let other people give it. Whoever wants, let them take care of education. Let them take care of the old people. I don't care. This was the attitude. Villages and small towns enjoyed a certain degree of self-government, but they did not have autonomy, no political freedom. Ultimately, they were mere taxpayers. कुछ भी करो जो करना है, लेकिन you are under the Mughal rule. Mughal-e-Azam will decide what is right or wrong for you. You carry out whatever is convenient, you carry out there, but ultimately you are under me. Getting the picture here? This was the idea there. Major components of Mughal administration: the emperor, enjoyed indivisible and inalienable sovereignty, symbol of unity, preserver of peace, head of civil and military administration, appointed and removed high officials, firmans were issued with his seal. He determined expenditure and revenue, not responsible or accountable to the people, very few abused power. Very few abused power means, again, very ambiguous statement it is. Because what do you define by abuse of power? Manmani. That is simple. मनमानी कौन नहीं किया? सबने किया है. सबने किया है. Because even for the great Shah Jahan that we talk about, or the Taj Mahal that we talk about, Shah Jahan, to ensure that another Taj Mahal will never be constructed, chopped the arms of the architect. That is manmani. Getting the point here. So whatever the history has portrayed or painted as, these are great kings, etc. All of them, if you literally go behind, you did this, you did this, you took his wife, you killed your own commander, you will find many like that. Again, it is nothing to do with religion or that thing alone. Please understand, religion, one side. They might have justified their actions by quoting religion, but it was more to do with pure selfish interest. प्लेजर के लिए, खुद के प्लेजर के लिए क्या करना है, that they did in that era. Simple. Despotism was covered with a veil of paternalistic benevolence. This is the reality. मनमानी करते वक्त भी they will try to portray it as, I am doing it for your own good. Like how Indian parents will beat us up. नेबर से झगड़ा हो गया होगा या कोई रिश्तेदार से झगड़ा हो गया होगा, रिश्तेदार के ऊपर गुस्सा नहीं निकाल सकते. They will take it out, that anger, on their children, and then they will finally give that $1 million statement. It is all for your good. Same thing. Whatever manmani they did, they finally try to portray it that we are doing it all for the benefit of the people. Toured the country to know the pulse of the administration. Cybernetic system. Just like communication. Some of them, not again everybody. Some kings will tour the country just to know कि हो क्या रहा है. And again they used to do this because vast territory. And to ensure again all Mansabs, are they working properly? Are they conspiring against me? To know all of that, they used to tour the country. Carried their capital with them, not possible in modern administration. Carrying the capital means literally, it is almost like how they say that dialogue, हम जहां खड़े होते हैं वहां से line शुरू हो जाते हैं. Like just like that. Because then what happens is, because the territory is huge, right? So even the kitchen, the staff, everybody will move with the king. Wherever they go, sitting there, he will take the next decisions of administration. So the entire thing used to move. Again, not possible today. Today we have the concept of summer capital, winter capital, etc., which is again due to climatic reasons they used to do it. Back then, this whole shifting of capital simply meant what? Administrative convenience. Because where is the Raja? Raja has gone to do a tour. He will be back next year only. अभी कोई फैसला हम ले नहीं सकते. That is not possible, right? तो राजा के साथ सब लोग जाएंगे. So whatever communications have to reach the Raja, that will also reach. It will take time. It will definitely take time. Based on that, it will go. And Raja again will write letter. Okay, now I am from this area. This decision is being taken. Like that, this communication also used to happen. And some sense of administrative continuity was also maintained. Again, understand, not every king used to do this. Getting the point here. Taking it further forward. King's Council does not bear resemblance to modern day Council of Ministers. Strength of officials decided by king, advised the king but was not binding. No checks. Gentle persuasion and veiled warning. Did not resign even if king did not heed to their advice. King's Council, you must understand, these are few people who stood there really scared. Kyunki despotic rule, not your Kautilyan king. तो अगर कुछ अगर कह दिया, किंग नाराज हो गया, तो like I told you, सर नहीं रहेगा गले के ऊपर. So if you have watched that movie Jodha Akbar again, you will see, always they will say, गुस्ताफी के लिए माफी चाहता हूं जहांपना, and then they will give the dialogue. They'll always keep their head down and only very low voice they will talk. Gentle persuasion. Jampana, you are going to do something incredibly stupid. Please understand. No. You will have to whitewash it and say, why can't we consider this decision again? You cannot outrightly tell it to the stupid, what Wahiyat decision have you taken? That you cannot do. Can we reconsider this? Because so many people will die like that. But whatever it is, your decision, it is God's decision. We will abide by it. This is how they used to present things. Clear? So the council did not have any strength. There was the number of it, all decided by the king. Council's body was just to persuade. Gentle persuasion. उससे ज्यादा कुछ भी नहीं. आगे. Departments of administration. Okay, this last topic, we'll wind it up with this. Exchequer and revenue under High Diwan. Imperial household under Khan-e-Zaman or the High Steward. Personal servants of emperor were under Khan-e-Zaman. Supervised emperor's daily expenditure, food stores, etc. Enjoyed trust of emperor. Wazirs were appointed from Khan-e-Zaman. Wazir as a judge. So as you can clearly see, this is also very similar to what we had in Kautilyan administration also, because there also you had a body literally to look into the matters of the palace. Military pay and accounts office under the imperial Bakshi, the paymaster. Paymaster of the central government. Civil officers who were also part of military had their salaries released by him, assisted the king in the appointment of Mansabdars. So, Khan-e-Zaman, from there you got what? The Wazir. The military paymaster, that is the imperial Bakshi, basically decided on the Mansabdar also, because Mansabdar was supposed to maintain cavalry. This cavalry was meant for whom? The army. So, basically, matters of army under the Bakshi. Recruitment of army, maintenance of troops, determining strength of the troops, assisting the king in the conduct of foreign relations, leading the army or a section of it and accompanying the king on tour. All of this under the Mirbakshi. Then, obviously, the entire thing was based on Islamic teachings. So, therefore, canon law, both civil and criminal, under the chief Qazi. Head for Department of Law, responsible for administration of law. Chief judge in criminal suits where trial took place according to Muslim law. Spokesman of the ulema. He made religious grants and saw to it they were used for right purpose. That means an entire division just to interpret the law of or the teachings of Islam as per civil laws and criminal laws, and to advise accordingly. One body was there. Religious endowments and charity under the chief Sadr. Censorship of public morals under the Muhtasib. So chief Sadr basically decided on matters of endowments and charity. Censorship of public morals under the Muhtasib. That is what is allowed as per Islamic law, what is not allowed. Like regulated behavior of the people, curbed immorality, that means premarital sex or extramarital affairs, these were not entertained. Punish those who indulged in anti-religious acts. That is, whatever is considered haram as per Islam was completely banned. The artillery under the Mir Atish or Daroga-e-Topkhana. Intelligence and post under the Daroga of Dak Chowki. Separate posts. That is the idea. Artillery, as you know, fire soldiers, troops again. So separate division of work, division of responsibility. Clear divisions. Each departments were there. But ultimately, control with whom? The king. Simple. King's Manmani will have the upper hand over everything. Clear, people? So with that, we come to an end of today's class. We will continue the rest of the topic tomorrow. All right, people.